Good morning.
गूह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वस्ततस्तु तं पश्यति निष्कलं ध्यायमानः एषोऽनुरात्मा चेतसा वेदितव्यो यस्मिन् प्राणः पञ्चधा सन्निवेश प्राणैश्चित्तं सर्वभूतं प्रजानां यस्मिन् विशुद्धे विभवत्येषयात्मा यम यमलोकं मनसा संविभाति विशुद्धसत्त्वः कामयते यांश्च कामान् तं तं लोकं जयते कांश्च कामान् तस्मात् आत्मज्ञं यर्चयेद भूतिकामः.
His privilege regained a shadowless sight. The thinker entered the immortal's air and drank again his pure and mighty source.
चक्षुषा गूह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वस्ततस्तु तं पश्यति निष्कलं ध्यायमानः एषोऽनुरात्मा चेतसा वेदितव्यो यस्मिन् प्राणः पञ्चधा सन्निवेश प्राणैश्चित्तं सर्वभूतं प्रजानां यस्मिन् विशुद्धे विभवत्येषयात्मा यम यमलोकं मनसा संविभाति विशुद्धसत्त्वः कामयते यांश्च कामान् तं तं लोकं जयते कांश्च कामान् तस्मात् आत्मज्ञं यर्चयेद भूतिकामः.
Good morning. We've come to Book 2, Canto 11, The Kingdoms and Godheads of the Greater Mind. Maybe we can just briefly review where we've come. Aswapati, after a remarkable description of his yoga, looks out from some height of consciousness on all the worlds, all the inner planes of existence. I'll just read briefly from page 96. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity. Images in a supernal consciousness, embodying the unborn who never dies, the structured visions of the cosmic self, alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him like form-bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable. And after we get a kind of an overview of these hierarchy of planes, descending down into matter, into the inconscient darkness, and all the way up towards the absolute spirit. Aswapati embarks on this journey through these different planes. And first he comes into the lower realm and works his way up. He goes first into the kingdom of subtle matter, where form is the predominant principle, but it's a world, a realm of kind of perfect, harmonious, beautiful forms, ideal forms. And then Aswapati moves up the ladder of these worlds into the worlds of life, into the vital worlds. Again, we're given an overview in one canto, the glory and fall of life, of these different planes, different levels of this of these vital worlds. And then he moves into the kingdoms of the little life, and we see the beginnings of life emerging out of matter. And its small, instinctual world, its life, tied to the small routines of living, just of survival. And then he moves into the kingdoms and Godheads of the greater life, worlds which have a greater similarity to our own world, where, again, the life principle is predominant, but it's living in an air of consciousness, it's aware of its life. It has kind of a mind, but subordinate to the life impulses, to the life desires, to the will of life to express itself and to grow. And there even it climbs up towards some heights in which it's aspiring towards the divine and having some touch of that divine on it. But then he descends into the lowest realms of the life principle, the descent into night. And then he goes into the world of falsehood and meets there the mother of evil and the sons of darkness. So into this kind of dark hell with very powerful and anti-divine evil forces and beings. And somehow there, at the floor of that deep hell, he encounters the key to which he was seeking, a key towards change of the nature. So he finds that on the floor of this hell, on the last lock subconscious floor. And then he's thrust up into the paradise of the life heavens. So he undergoes some kind of personal transformation, and he's thrust into this world of the life gods. And they're kind of a divine life, very beautiful, harmonious, but still not an integral and complete perfection. So he decides to continue his journey, and he enters into the kingdoms of the mind, and first of the little mind. And that's what we had read last time. And there he encounters some different levels of this mind that's tied to the physical. 3 levels of the physical mind. One very closely tied to matter and the outward world of matter. One more vital in nature and pursuing its own aims of life, its own desires. And then one a little bit higher to a world of reason, something very similar to our world. All of these worlds have some imprint on our physical world. We are kind of a meeting place of all of these worlds. But there, especially at that level, is the influence on humanity are very profound and powerful, of this world of reason.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
This descent into night, he found the key, you said.
Yeah.
What is the key? So just to refresh, I don't remember. What was that key?
Key.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. It was the key.
It seemed written there.
It's the key to nature's change. So he doesn't describe in detail about what it is, but he finds some secret down in the subconscious, deep subconscious towards the inconscient, a key of something divine there, a divine presence or something that can change matter's law.
He hasn't revealed it. What is that key?
No, not so much.
I missed it or something.
In page 219, I think the last lines.
219.
He mastered the tides of nature with a look. He met with the best
No, I think The key comes a little bit later, I think.
Yeah, he's describing the key. What exactly? He's not describing you.
Yeah, I see he masters the types of nature visible.
On page 231, so into the abysmal secrecy he came, where darkness peers from her mattress gray and nude, and stood on the last locked subconscious floor, where being slept unconscious of its thoughts, and built the world, not knowing what it built. There, waiting its hour, the future lay unknown. There is the record of the vanished stars. There, in the slumber of the cosmic will, he saw the secret key of nature's change. A light was with him, an invisible hand was laid upon the error and the pain, till it became a quivering ecstasy, the shock of sweetness of an arm's embrace. He saw in night the eternal's shadowy veil, new death for a seller of the house of life, in destruction felt creation's hasty pace, new loss as the price of a celestial gain, and hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates. Then, in illusion's occult factory, and in the inconscience magic printing house, torn were the formats of the primal night, and shattered the stereotypes of ignorance. So that's what happens.
It's more of a metaphorical key. I don't think there's any actual key.
Yes. He just found, he looked and he found that nature's change.
Yeah.
But I thought I'll get a shock. Or a hint.
Part of it, I think, is that he had the realization that even that darkness was part of the divine. Like, we tend to look at all the darkness and the destruction and all of these things as kind of a polar opposite to what we're striving for. And so we're caught in this duality. He sees that now there's a oneness underlying all of this, and that even that darkness has its place and purpose in the scheme of God. So that's what's a little bit described here in this passage. He saw that it was new death as a seller of the house of life. So he sees this underlying oneness, embracing that. And so it's caught up in that unifying vision. And somehow perhaps that unifying vision is transformative. But from there, he continues his journey. But it's interesting that he was, from that lowest point, after finding that key, is thrust up into these heavens of the life gods. And there's something interesting that the mother had also undergone an experience like this, in which she had descended, gone down into this deep tunnel with this very kind of narrow tunnel with sharp stones kind of jutting out in that tunnel, going deep, deep down until it was very narrow and painful and tight. And there too she encounters this being of light, a divine being at the bottom of the inconscient. And then she also undergoes a kind of a transformation, and she's thrust up into these worlds of light. And there, even she describes these worlds as supramental in their nature. Sri Aurobindo doesn't describe these worlds that Aswapati is going through as supramental, but in the mother's experience, apparently they were. So there was a close parallel between them, these two different experiences.
So the key is then to be open and know that in the darkness is a divine force.
Yeah. And in matter, ultimately, the secret of the supermind is that it encompasses matter as well as the spirit. For ages, the yogis were going up into the spiritual realms and leaving behind the world of matter and leaving it untransformed. But the ultimate secret in the supramental realization involves an encompassing of all of existence, including matter. So I think these are some of the keys to the key. So we had followed last time Aswapati's journey through the worlds of the little mind, which were worlds similar to our world in a sense. At least the mind there operated very much in familiar terms to us, and its influences are there. But now he continues up into these higher realms of a spiritual mind, and that's what we begin reading today. So, would you like to begin?
There sees the limits of the laboring power, but being and creation sees not there. For thought transcends the circles of the mortal mind. It is greater than its earthly instrument. The Godhead crammed into mind's narrow space escapes on every side into some vast. That is a passage to infinity. It moves eternal in the spirit's field, a runner towards the far spiritual light, a child and servant of the spirit's force. But mind too falls back from a nameless peak, is being stretched beyond the sight of thought. For the spirit is eternal and unmade, and not by thinking was its greatness born, and not by thinking can its knowledge come. It knows itself, and in itself it lives. It moves where no thought is nor any form. Its feet are steadied upon finite things. Its wings can dare to cross the infinite.
Thank you. Helmut, would you continue?
Arriving into his ken, a wonder space of great and marvelous meetings called his steps, where thought leaned on a vision beyond thought and shaped the world from the unthinkable. On peaks imagination cannot tread, in the horizon of a tireless sight, under a blue veil of eternity, the splendor of ideal mind were seen outstretched across the boundaries of things known. Origin of the little that we are, instinct with the endless more than we must be, a prop of all that human strength enacts, creator of hopes by earth unrealized. It spreads beyond the expanding universe. It wings beyond the boundaries of dream. It overtops the ceiling of life's soar.
Thank you. Debashish?
Awake in a luminous sphere unbound by thought, exposed to omniscient immensities, it casts on our world its great ground influences, its speed that outstrips the ambling of the hours, its force that strides invincibly through time, its mights that bridge the gulf twixt man and God, its lights that combat ignorance and death. In its vast ambit of ideal space, where beauty and mightiness walk hand in hand, the Spirit's truths take form as living gods, and each can build a world in its own right. In an air which doubt and error cannot mark, with the stigmata of their deformity, in communion with the musing privacy of a truth that sees in an unerring light, where the sight falters not nor wanders thought, exempt from our world's exorbitant tax of tears, dreaming its luminous creation's gaze on the ideals that people eternity.
Thank you. Paula?
In a sun blaze of joy and absolute power above the masters of the ideal throne, in sessions of secure felicity, in regions of illumined certitude. Far are those realms from our labor and yearning and call. Perfection's reign and hallowed sanctuary, closed to the uncertain thoughts of human mind, remote from the turbid tread of mortal life. But since our secret selves are next of kin, a breath of unattained divinity visits the imperfect earth on which we toil. Across a gleaming ether's golden laugh, a light falls on our vexed, unsatisfied lives. A thought comes down from the ideal worlds and moves us to new model, even here, some image of their greatness and appeal and wonder beyond the ken of mortal hope.
Thank you. Margaret?
Amid the heavy sameness of the days and contradicted by the human law, a face in things that are not and must be, life's comrade of this world's delight and pain, the child of the secret soul's forbidden desire, born of its armor with eternity. Our spirits break free from their environment. The future brings its face of miracle near, its Godhead looks at us with present eyes. Acts deemed impossible grow natural. We feel the hero's immortality, the courage and the strength death cannot touch, awake in limbs that are mortal, hurts that fail. Be moved by the rapid impulse of a will that scorns the tardy drudge of mortal time. These promptings come not from an alien sphere. Ourselves are citizens of that mother state. Adventurers, we have colonized matter's night.
Thank you. Nitya?
But now our rights are barred, our passports void. We live self-exiled from our heavenlier home. An errant ray from the immortal mind accepted the earth's blindness and became our human thought, servant of ignorance. An exile, laborer on this unsure globe, captured and driven in life's nescient grasp, hampered by obscure cell and treacherous nerve, it dreams of happier states and nobler powers, the natural privilege of unfallen gods. Recalling still its old lost sovereignty. Amidst earth's mist and fog, and mud and stone, it still remembers its exalted spear and the high city of its splendid birth. A memory steals in from lost heavens of truth. A wide release comes near, a glory calls. A might looks out, an estranged felicity.
Thank you. Jean?
In glamorous passages of half-veiled light, wandering a brilliant shadow of itself, this quick, uncertain leader of blind gods, this tender of small lamps, this minister serf, hired by a mind and body for earth use, forgets its work mid crude realities. It recovers its renounced imperial right. It wears once more a purple robe of thought and knows itself the ideal seer and king, communicant and prophet of the unborn, heir to delight and immortality. All things are real that here are only dreams. In our unknown depths sleeps the reverse of truth. On our unreached heights they reign and come to us, in thought and muse trailing their robes of light. But our dwarf will and cold pragmatic sense, amid not the celestial visitants, awaiting us on the ideal's peaks, or guarded in our secret self unseen, yet flash sometimes across the awakened soul, hide from our lives their greatness, beauty, power.
Thank you. Would you like to?
Our present feels sometimes their legal touch. Our future strives towards their luminous thrones. Out of spiritual secrecy they gaze, immortal footfalls in mind's corridors sound. Our souls can climb into the shining plains, the breaths from which they can be our home. His privileged shrine of shadowless sight, the thinker entered the immortal's air and drank again his pure and mighty source. Immutable in rhythmic calm and joy, he saw sovereignty free in limitless light, the unfallen plains, the thought-created worlds, where knowledge is the leader of the act, and the matter is of thinking substance made, feeling a heaven bird poised or dreaming wings, answers truth call as to a parent voice. From luminous leaps from all shaping beams. And will is a conscious chariot of gods, and life, a splendid stream of musing force, carries the voice of mystic sun.
Thank you. Naren?
A happiness it brings of whispered truth. There runs in its flow, honeying the bosom of space, a laughter from the immortal heart of bliss, and the unfathomed joy of timelessness, the sound of wisdom's murmur in the unknown, the breath of an unseen infinity. In gleaming clarities of amidst air, the chainless and omnipotent spirit of mind brooded on the blue lotus of the idea. A gold supernal sun of timeless truth poured down the mystery of the eternal ray through a silence quivering with the word of light on an endless ocean of discovery. Far off he saw the joining hemispheres. On meditation's mounting edge of trance, great stairs of thought climbed up to unborn heights, where time's last ridges touch eternity's skies, and nature speaks to the spirit's absolute.
Thank you. Sudanya?
A triple realm of ordered thought came past, a small beginning of immense ascent. Above were bright ethereal skies of mind, a packed and endless shore as if sky pressed sky, but traced against the void on bastioned light, the highest stroke to neighbor eternity, the largest widened into the infinite, but through immortal, mighty, and divine. The first realms were close and keen to human mind. Their deities shape our greater thinking roads. A fragment of their portions can be ours. These breaths were not too broad for our souls to range. These heights were not too high for human hope. A triple flight led to this triple world, although abrupt for common strength to tread. Its upward slopes looks down on our earth was on a slant not too precipitously stripped. Once could turn back traveling deep descending lines to commune with the mortal's universe.
Thank you. B?
The mighty wardens of the ascending stair, who intercede with the all-creating Word, there waited for the pilgrim heaven-bound soul, holding the 1,000 keys of the beyond. They proffered their knowledge to the climbing mind, and filled life with thoughts' immensities. The prophet hierophants of the occult law, the flame-bright hierarchs of the divine truth, interpreters between man's mind and God's. They bring the immortal fire to mortal men, iridescent, bodying the invisible, the guardians of the eternal bright degrees fronted the sun in radiant phalanxes. Afar they seemed a symbol imagery, illumined originals of the shadowy script in which our sight transcribes the ideal ray, or icons figuring a mystic truth. But nearer, gods and living presences.
Thank you. Tinnik.
A march of friezes marked the lowest steps. Fantastically ornate and richly small, They had room for the whole meaning of a world, symbols, minute of its perfection's joy, strange beasts that were nature's forces made alive, and, wakened to the wonder of his role, man grown an image undefaced of God, and objects the fine coin of beauty's reign. But wide the terrains where those levels serve. In front of the ascending epiphany, world, times, enjoyers, favorites of world bliss, the masters of things actual, lords of the hours, playmates of youthful nature and child God, creators of matter by hid stress of mind, whose subtle thoughts support unconscious life and guide the fantasy of brute events, stood there, a race of young, keen-visioned gods, king children born on wisdom's early plane, taught in her school world-making's mystic play.
Thank you. Grace?
Archmasons of the Eternal Thorma Church, molders and measurers of fragmented space, they have made their plan, the concealed and known, a dwelling house for the invisible King. Obeying the Eternal's deep command, they have built in the material front of things this wide world kindergarten of young souls, where the infant spirit learns through mind and sense to read the letters of the cosmic script and study the body of the cosmic self and search for the secret meaning of the whole. To all that spirit conceives they gave a mold, persuading nature into visible moods. They lend a finite shape to infinite things. Each power that leaps from the unmanifest, leaving the largeness of the Eternal's peace, they seized and held by their precision eye and made a figurant in the cosmic dance. Its free caprice they bound by rhythmic laws and compelled to accept its posture and its line in the wizardry of an ordered universe.
Thank you. Come back to Sanjay.
The all-containing was contained in form. Oneness was carved into units measurable, the limitless built into a cosmic sum. Unending space was beaten into a curve, indivisible time into small, minute cut. Then finite simul, mass to keep secure, the mystery of the formless cast into form. Invincibly their craft devised for use, the magic of sequent number and science spell. Design's miraculous potency was God, laden with beauty and significance, and by the determining mandate of their gaze. Figure and quality equating join in an inextricable identity. On each event they stem its curves of law and its trust and charge of burdened circumstance. A free and divine incident, no more. At each movement, willed or adventure of the soul, at lengthened a fate-bound mysterious chain, a line foreseen of an immutable plan, one step more in necessity's long march.
Thank you. Helmut?
A term was set for every ego power restraining its will to monopolize the world. A groove of bronze prescribed for force and act, and shown to each moment its appointed place, four-willed inalterably in the spiral, huge time loop fugitive from eternity. Inevitable, their thoughts like links of fate, imposed on the leap and lightning race of mind, and on the frail fortuitous flux of life, and on the liberty of atomic things, immutable cause and adamant consequence. Idea gave up the plastic infinity to which it was born, and now traced out instead small separate steps of chain work in a plot. Immortal ones, now tied to birth and end, torn from its immediacy of errorless sight, knowledge was rebuilt from cells of inference into a fixed body.
Above stood ranked a subtle archangel race with large lids and looks that searched the unseen. A light of liberating knowledge shone across the gulfs of silence in their eyes. They lived in the mind and knew truth from within. A sight withdrawn in the concentrated heart could pierce behind the screen of time's results and the rigid cast and shape of visible things.
Thank you.
All that escaped conception's narrow noose, vision descried and gripped their seeing thoughts, filled in the blanks left by the seeking sense. High architects of possibility and engineers of the impossible, mathematicians of the infinitudes, and theoricians of unknowable truths. They formulate enigmas, postulates, and join the unknown to the apparent worlds. Acolytes, they wait upon the timeless power. The cycle of her works investigate. Passing her fence of wordless privacy, their mind could penetrate her occult mind and draw the diagram of her secret thoughts. They read the codes and ciphers she had sealed. Copies they made of all her guarded plans. For every turn of her mysterious course, assigned a reason and unchanging rule. The unseen grew visible to student eyes. Explained was the immense inconscient scheme. Audacious lines were traced upon the void. The infinite was reduced to square and cube.
Thank you. Margaret?
Arranging symbol and significance, tracing the curve of a transcendent power, they frame the Kabbalah of the cosmic law, the balancing line discovered of life's technique, and structured her magic and her mystery. Imposing schemes of knowledge on the vast, they clamped to syllogism of finite thought, the free logic of an infinite consciousness, grammared the hidden rhythms of nature's dance, critiqued the plot of the drama of the worlds, made figure and number a key to all that is. The psychoanalysis of cosmic self was traced, its secrets hunted down and read, the unknown pathology of the unique, Assessed was the system of the probable, the hazard of fleeing possibilities, to account for the actual's unaccountable sum. Necessity's logarithmic tables drawn, cast into a scheme, the triple act of the one.
Thank you. Nitya.
Unveiled, the abrupt invisible multitude of forces whirling from the hands of chance seemed to obey some vast imperative. Their tangled motives worked out unity. A wisdom read their mind to themselves unknown, their anarchy rammed into a formula, and from their giant randomness of force, following the habit of their million paths, distinguishing each faintest line and stroke of a concealed, unalterable design, out of the chaos of the invisible's moods, derived the calculus of destiny. In its bright pride of universal lore, mind's knowledge overtopped the omniscient's power. The Eternal's winging eagle puissances, surprised in their untracked empyrean, stooped from their gyres to obey the beck of thought. Each mistreated god forced to revealing form, assigned his settled moves in nature's game, zigzagged at the gesture of a chess player will, across the checkerboard of cosmic fate.
Thank you. Jean?
In the wide sequence of necessity's steps, predicted every act and thought of God, its values weighed by the accountant mind, checked in his mathematized omnipotence, lost its divine aspect of miracle, and was a figure in a cosmic sum. The mighty mother's whims and lightning moods, arisen from her all-wise unruled delight, in the freedom of her sweet and passionate breast, robbed of their wonder, were chained to a cause and aim. An idol of bronze replaced her mystic shape that captures the movements of the cosmic vast. In the sketch precise of an ideal face, forgotten was her eyelashes' dream print, carrying on their curve infinity's dreams, lost the alluring marvel of her eyes. The surging wave throbs of her vast sea heart, they bound to a theorem of ordered beats. Her deep designs, which from herself she had veiled, vowed self-revealed in their confessional.
Thank you. Did I get you? Did I skip? Did you read? Debashish, you read? Okay.
For the birth and death of the worlds, they fixed a date. The diameter of infinity was drawn, measured the distant arc of the unseen heights, and visualized the plumbless viewless depth, till all seemed known that in all time could be. All was sorted by numbers, name, and form. Nothing was left untold. Incalculable, yet was there wisdom, circled with naught. Truth they could find and hold, but not the one truth. The highest was to them unknowable. By knowing too much, they missed the whole to be known. The farthermost heart of the world was left unguessed, and the transcendent kept its secrecy in a slumber and more daring soar. To the white summit of the triple stair, bare steps climbed up like flaming rocks of gold, burning their ways to to pure absolute sky, august, the few, the sovereign king of thought, have made of space their wide, all-seeing gaze, surveying the enormous work of time, a breadth of all containing consciousness, supported being in a still embrace.
Thank you. Naren?
Intercessors of a luminous unseen, they kept in the long passage to the world the imperatives of the Creator Self, obeyed by unknowing earth, by conscious heaven. Their thoughts are the partners in its vast control. A great all-ruling consciousness is there, and mind unwriting serves a higher power. It is a channel, not the source of all. The cosmos is no accident in time. There is a meaning in each play of chance. There is a freedom in each phase of fate. A wisdom knows and guides the mysteried world. A truth gaze shapes its beings and events. A word self-born upon creation's heights, voice of the eternal in the temporal spheres, prophet of the seeings of the absolute, sows the idea's significance in form, and from that seed the growth of time arise.
Thank you. Sudanya?
On peaks beyond our ken, the all-wisdom sits. A single and infallible looks comes down, a silent touch from the supernal air, awakened to ignorant knowledge in its acts. The secret powers in the inconscient depths, compelling the blinded Godhead to emerge, determining necessity's new dance. As she passes through the circuit of the hours and vanishes from the chase of finite eyes, down circling vistas of aeonic time, the unseizable forces of the cosmic world bear in their beckoned limp of fixity, of an original foresight that is faith. Even nature's ignorance is truth's instrument, or struggling ego cannot change her course. Yet it is a conscious power that moves in us. A seed idea is parent of our acts, and destiny, the unrecognized child of will.
Thank you. B.
Infallibly by truth's directing gaze, all creatures hear their secret self disclose, forced to become what in themselves they hide. For he who is grows manifest in the years, and the slow Godhead shut within the cell climbs from the plasm to immortality, but hidden, but denied to mortal grasp. Mystics, ineffable is the Spirit's truth, unspoken, caught only by the Spirit's eye. When naked of ego and mind, it hears the voice. It looks through light to ever greater light and sees eternity ensphering life. This greater truth is foreign to our thoughts, where a free wisdom works. They seek for a rule, or we only see a tripping game of chance, or a labor in chains forced by bound nature's law. An absolutism of dumb, unthinking power.
Thank you. Tineke?
Audacious in their sense of God-born strength, These dare to grasp with their thoughts truth absolute. By an abstract purity of godless sight, by a percept nude, intolerant of forms, they brought to mind what mind could never reach, and hoped to conquer truth's supernal base. A stripped imperative of conceptual phrase, architectonic and inevitable, translated the unthinkable into thought. A silver-winged fire of naked, subtle sense, an ear of mind withdrawn from the outward rhymes, discovered the seed sounds of the eternal world, the rhythm and music heard that built the worlds, and seized in things the bodiless will to be. The illimitable they measured with numbers rods, and traced the last formula of limited things. In transparent systems bodied termless truth, the timeless made accountable to time, and valued the incommensurable supreme.
Thank you.
To park and hedge the ungrasped infinitudes, they erected absolute walls of thought and speech, and made a vacuum to hold the one. In their sight they drove towards an empty peak, a mighty space of cold and sunlit air. To unify their task, excluding life which cannot bear the nakedness of the vast, they made a cipher of a multitude. Negation found the meaning of the all, and in nothingness the absolute positive. A single law, simplest cosmic theme, compressing nature into a formula. Their Titan labor made all knowledge one, a mental algebra of the spirit's ways, an abstract of the living divinity. Here the mind's wisdom stopped. It felt complete, and nothing more was left to think or know. In a spiritual zero it sat throned, and took its vast silence for the ineffable.
Thank you. This was the play of the bright gods of thought, attracting into time the timeless light, imprisoning eternity in the hours. This they have planned, to snare the feet of truth in an aureate net of concept and of phrase, and keep her captive for the thinker's joy in his little world built of immortal dreams. There must she dwell, mured in the human mind, an empress prisoner in her subject's house, adored and pure and still on his heart's throne, his splendid property cherished and apart in the wall of silence of his secret muse, immaculate in white virginity, the same forever and forever one, his worshipped, changeless goddess through all time. Go over here. Would you like to read? Okay, Sanjay.
Or else a faithful consort of his mind, assenting to his nature and his will, she sanctions and inspires his words and acts, prolonging their resonance through the listening ears, companion and recorder of his march, crossing a brilliant tract of thought and life, carved out of the eternity of time, a witness to his high triumphant star, a Godhead servitor to a crowned idea. He shall dominate by her a prostrate world, a warrant for his deeds and his beliefs. She attests his right divine to lead and rule, or as a lover clasps his one beloved. Godhead of his life's worship and desire, icon of his heart's soul, idolatry. She now is his and must live for him alone. She has invaded him with her sudden bliss, an exhaustless marvel in his happy grasp, an allurement, a caught-ravishing miracle.
Thank you.
Her now he claims after long rapt pursuit, the one joy of his body and his soul. Inescapable is her divine appeal, her immense possession, an undying thrill, an intoxication and an ecstasy. The passion of her self-revealing moods, a heavenly glory and variety, makes ever new her body to his eyes, or else repeats the first enchantment's touch, the luminous rapture of her mystic breasts, and beautiful vibrant limbs, a living field of throbbing new discovery without end. A new beginning flowers in word and laugh, a new charm brings back the old extreme delight. He is lost in her. She is his heaven here. Truth smiled upon the gracious golden game. Out of her hushed eternal spaces leaned the great and boundless goddess, fain to yield the sunlit sweetness of her secrecies. Incarnating her beauty in his glass, she gave for a brief kiss her immortal lips and drew to her bosom one glorified mortal head. She made earth her home, for whom heaven was too small.
Thank you. Devashish.
In a human breast, her occult presence lived. He carved from his own self his figure of her. She shaped her body into a mind's embrace. Into thought's narrow limits she has come. Her greatness she has suffered to be pressed into the little cabin of the idea, the closed room of a lonely thinker's grasp. She has lowered her heights to the stature of our souls and dazzled our lids with her celestial gaze. Thus each is satisfied with his high gain and thinks himself beyond morality blessed, a king of truth upon his separate throne. To her possessor in the field of time, a single splendor caught from her glory seems the one true light, her beauty's glowing whole. But thought nor word can seize eternal truth. The whole world lives in a lonely ray of her sun. In our thinking's close and narrow lamp-lit house, the vanity of our shut mortal mind dreams that the chains of thought have made her ours. But only we play with our own brilliant bonds, tying her down. It is ourselves we tie.
Thank you.
In our hypnosis, by one luminous point, we see not what small figure of her we hold. We feel not her inspiring boundlessness. We share not her immortal liberty. Thus is it even with the seer and sage, for still the human limits the divine. Out of our thoughts we must leap up to sight, breathe her divine illimitable air, a simple vast supremacy confess, dare to surrender to her absolute. Then the unmanifest reflects his form in the still mind as in a living glass. The timeless ray descends into our hearts as we are wrapped into eternity. For truth is wider, greater than her forms. 1,000 icons they have made of her, and find her in the idols they adore, but she remains herself and infinite.
Thank you. So we can go back to the beginning. We have a little time left. We can start, I guess. So we'll just continue now from the beginning. I think Margaret.
The kingdoms and godheads of the greater mind. There cease the limits of the laboring power, but being and creation cease not there, for thought transcends the circles of mortal mind. It is greater than its earthly instrument. The Godhead crammed into mind's narrow space escapes on every side into some vast that is a passage to infinity. It moves eternal in the spirit's field, a runner towards the far spiritual light, the child and servant of the spirit's force. But mine too falls back from a nameless peak, this being stretched beyond the sight of thought. For the spirit is eternal and unmade, and not by thinking was its greatness born, and not by thinking can its knowledge come. It knows itself, and in itself it lives. It moves where no thought is, nor any form. Its feet are steadied upon finite things. Its wings can dare to cross the infinite.
Thank you. Yeah. This point. So this is a transitional passage from the previous canto into the new one. So the first line, there cease the limits of the laboring power. So that's referring back to the last canto. Remember in the last canto we went through this triple dwarf mind, which represented different aspects of the physical mind. And then just towards in the last passage of the canto, it described two other aspects of a higher mind, of a life mind and of a pure thought. So that was where ceased the limits of the laboring power. But here Sri Aurobindo says that these limits of thought are not the end of existence. Being and creation cease not there, for thought transcends the circle of mortal mind. So even thought or mind transcends these limits that he has described. It is greater than its earthly instrument. But then, so he says it escapes, that thought can go beyond this. And then later he says, but mind too falls back from a nameless peak. So even there is something beyond mind. There's something beyond thought, and then he's saying there's something beyond mind, this pure spirit, for the spirit is eternal and unmade, and not by thinking was its greatness born, and not by thinking can its knowledge come. It knows itself, and in itself it lives. It moves where no thought is, nor any form. Its feet are steadied upon finite things. Its wings can dare to cross the infinite. So we see here mind as kind of an intermediary between matter and life on the one hand and the spirit above.
Could you clarify a little between mind and thought? Because it's a little mixed there.
Yeah, it is for me as well. His being stretched beyond the sight of thought. I think that there is a higher aspect of mind beyond thought. Maybe one of even pure vision, or even we talk about these overmental realms, which are also in a way a part of mind, or the borderline of mind and supermind. So they go beyond thought. Thought is more, I think, conceptual.
And you can say the unthinkable, because you're still in mind, but it's not thinkable, those thoughts. It's leaking out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even when you start dealing with infinity, I think mind cannot, or at least thought cannot deal with it, except in a very abstract way, which he talks about reducing it to nothingness. Okay, so we can continue, Nitya.
arriving into his ken a wonder space of great and marvelous meetings called his steps, where thought leaned on a vision beyond thought and shaped a world from the unthinkable. On peaks imagination cannot tread, in the horizons of a tireless sight, under a blue veil of eternity, the splendors of ideal mind were seen, outstretched across the boundaries of things known. Origin of the little that we are, instinct with the endless more that we must be, a prop of all that human strength enacts, creator of hopes by earth unrealized. It spreads beyond the expanding universe. It wings beyond the boundaries of dream. It overtops the ceiling of life's soul. Awake in a luminous sphere, unbound by thought, exposed to omniscient immensities, it casts on our world its great ground influences, its speed that outstrips the ambling of the hours, its force that strides invincibly through time, its mights that bridge the gulf twixt man and God, its lights that combat ignorance and death.
Thank you. So here Sri Aurobindo describes kind of maybe this meeting place of thought and what's above it. In the beginning here, he says, arriving into his ken, a wonder space of great and marvelous meetings, called his steps, where thought leaned on a vision beyond thought, and shaped a world from the unthinkable. So in this first part, he seems to be describing this greater mind really as kind of a creator of the forms of existence and of our world. And here these thought, but with a capital T, is doing this, leaning on a vision beyond thought. It's structuring the created universe and shaped a world from the unthinkable. On peaks imagination cannot tread, it's far beyond imaginations, in the horizons of a tireless sight, under a blue veil of eternity, the splendors of ideal mind were seen, outstretched across the boundaries of things known. So it's above this creation, across the boundaries of things known, origin of the little that we are, and instinct with the endless more that we must be. A prop of all that human strength enacts, creator of hopes by earth unrealized. It spreads beyond the expanding universe. It wings beyond the boundaries of dream. It overtops the ceiling of life's soar. And then again, he's at this kind of meeting place of this thought and what's above it. Thought is creative. He's awake in a luminous sphere unbound by thought, exposed to omniscient immensities of all-knowing vastnesses. It casts on our world its great crowned influences. So again, he begins using this pronoun in it. It spreads beyond the expanding universe. He seems to be referring back to this ideal mind in all of these references. It casts on our world its great crowned influences, its speed that outstrips the ambling of the hour, its force that strides invincibly through time, its mights that bridge the gulf twixt man and God, its lights that combat ignorance and death. So this is the ideal mind.
So where do we place this ideal mind in the hierarchy of minds? Somewhere below overmind or higher mind, I'm confused between these levels. Before supermind, like we have higher mind, intuitive mind, overmind, and then I don't know the sequence of these two. Where does the ideal mind fit in?
Yeah, it doesn't, he doesn't talk about it in that scheme, but it seems somewhere overmind. Later, a little bit later, he will talk about its thoughts taking the forms of gods. So that sounds very much like overmind. But there may be realms of creative mind even below overmind, I think. And even in overmind, there may be different levels. So I don't know. So there are these gods in these realms that are creative of things below.
Isn't it all mentalizations of our projection? Because the physical mind is working on sensation, so it projects this material world that we see, which, physics tells us doesn't exist, actually. So then the ideal mind, but within it, we're able to sense that there's something more. So it comes from epigenetics and DNA and all that built into the cell is this yearning or whatever, and we can structure it, according to any mythology we want. But Auroville has those clear steps, but still those are not absolutes. Those are just suggestions.
But maybe, but it seems like what you're suggesting is that these are built from below, from our mind, because he's describing this here as kind of a descent, right, from supermind and it supramental truths taking form.
Yeah, it's the inverse. So
Yeah.
that is the being. You have the absolute being, but the absolute being, how does it manifest?
Yeah.
So it comes
That's
from
what he's
inside,
describing.
inside
Right.
out.
Yeah.
But then you can't catch it with the mind. So but we all feel these things. There's something more. So how do you talk about that? That's why this is so good, because he is doing it in a way I think that can influence us.
Yeah, he's showing all the steps and links between our mind and this vaster truth. So I think we'll leave it there for today. So he's going to play some video first.
clarities of amethyst air, the chainless and omnipotent spirit of mind brooded on the blue lotus of the idea.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.